They insult you because they can, because in their eyes your silence is weakness, your restraint is submission, and your dignity is an empty mask. But here's what most people never understand. An insult is not just words, it's a test, a probe, a quiet measure of how much of your soul is still unguarded. Every insult, no matter how small, is an act of psychological warfare. It's a question wrapped in mockery. How much control do you really have? Most people answer that question without realizing it, with their faces, their tone, the flicker of emotion in their eyes. They try to defend themselves, not realizing that defense in the realm of power is surrender dressed in pride. Niccolo Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. In the courts of Florence, surrounded by schemers, traitors, and self-serving princes, he saw insults for what they truly were: strategic maneuvers to expose weakness. And weakness in politics or life is an open wound. It invites attack. So Machiavelli's way of handling insults was not the emotional, impulsive way of the common man. He didn't rise to every provocation. He didn't waste his power on reaction. His weapon was composure, and beneath it, cold calculation. Because when you respond with emotion, you're playing their game. When you respond with silence and intelligence, they start playing yours. Here's the thing most people miss. An insult only works if you care about the opinion of the one who throws it. The moment you detach your ego from the judgment of others, their words lose all leverage. Machiavelli would say, men should be either treated kindly or crushed. The same logic applies to insults. You either ignore them entirely, or you respond in a way that destroys the power dynamic behind them. There is no middle ground. Let's break down what this really means. When someone insults you, they are not attacking you. They're attacking the image they have of you, the mental construct they've created, the version of you they think they can dominate. Most people make the mistake of defending that image. They start explaining, overreacting, proving themselves. That's exactly what the manipulator wants to make you move, to pull you out of your center. Machiavelli's wisdom was to never let anyone dictate the frame. The one who defines the frame defines the reality. If someone calls you weak, don't argue. Instead, behave like a man who has no need to prove otherwise. The lack of reaction plants doubt. Doubt grows faster than any defense ever could. That's how you turn psychological attacks into weapons for yourself, not by deflecting them, but by letting them reflect back onto the attacker. Consider this: in politics, great leaders have always been insulted, ridiculed, and mocked. Think of Julius Caesar, laughed at for his arrogance; Napoleon, called a pretentious general by the old French elite; Churchill, mocked for his stubbornness. Even modern politicians who are constantly under fire, all of them face the same dynamic. The weak respond to insult by seeking validation. The strong absorb it and transform it into mystique. Because in the theater of power, image is everything, but control over your image is what separates rulers from pawns. Machiavelli advised princes to cultivate appearance while mastering reality. He knew that power often depends not on truth, but on perception. And an insult, at its core, is an attempt to hijack perception, to make others see you as smaller, lesser, shaken. When you respond emotionally, you confirm the frame. But when you remain unmoved, the insult collapses under its own weight. Here's the Machiavellian secret. It's not about appearing emotionless. It's about controlling when, how, and to whom your emotions are shown. Anger, pride, even humor, they're all tools if you know when to unsheath them. If someone disrespects you publicly, you don't strike back immediately. You let the silence grow. You let the room feel your stillness. You study the person, their tone, their allies, their intention. Every word they say reveals their strategy. And then, when the time is right, you respond in a way that makes them regret ever opening their mouth. It's not revenge, it's demonstration. A controlled burn that warns others what happens when they cross certain lines. This is not about cruelty, it's about authority. Because without authority, you will always be the target of casual disrespect. People insult upward only when they believe the higher man won't strike back. So your task is to make them doubt that belief, not through outbursts, but through consequences. Look at how the greats did it. When Frederick the Great of Prussia was mocked by rival monarchs for his military obsession, he didn't argue. He conquered Silesia. When Catherine the Great was called an illegitimate ruler, she expanded the empire and rewrote the laws of succession. When Lincoln was publicly humiliated by his political enemies, he didn't retaliate. He outmaneuvered them with intellect, turning enemies into instruments of his rise. This is Machiavellian mastery in motion. Use every insult as a signal, not of your weakness, but of where your next strategic move must be aimed. Because here's the quiet truth: the more powerful you become, the more the world will test you through mockery. They won't always challenge you directly. They'll chip at your name, your reputation, your demeanor. They'll do it to see if your power is built on emotion or discipline. The emotional man is easy to read. The disciplined man is unreadable and therefore untouchable. Let's go even deeper. Psychologically, an insult triggers the primal need for status preservation. It activates the same neural circuits that respond to physical threat. That's why the instinct to react feels so strong. Your mind interprets insult as danger. But Machiavellian strategy begins with mastering your inner kingdom. If you can't rule over your impulses, you'll never rule over men. The greatest power move is calm indifference, not apathy, but weaponized control. You let others reveal themselves while you observe. You don't fight for dominance. You let them waste their energy proving they have it. Eventually, the one who reacts less becomes the one who controls more. And yet, indifference alone isn't enough. Because silence, if not backed by presence, becomes emptiness. You must radiate the kind of quiet authority that makes people hesitate before speaking against you. Machiavelli called this the art of appearance. Others may not know exactly what you're capable of, but they must believe you are capable of much. That's why when someone insults you, your reaction must be calculated to feed that belief. Smile slightly, hold eye contact, speak less. Let your silence be the mirror in which they see their own insecurity. And when you finally do speak, your words should slice through the air with surgical precision, not long, not loud, but unmistakably final. One of Machiavelli's lesser-known lessons is this: the wise man does at once what the fool does at last. The fool argues when insulted. The wise man calculates, acts, and ends the game entirely. Sometimes the correct move is to destroy the source of insult, not through violence, but through elevation. You rise so far above the provocateur that their words become noise from a forgotten level. Their attempts to humiliate you only remind the world of how small they are. This is psychological dominance, not through aggression, but through transcendence. It's the art of making the world see your enemies as irrelevant. But let's be real, this isn't easy. To reach this level, you must train yourself to detach from the ego that craves validation. You must see every insult as data, raw input revealing who resents you, who envies you, and who secretly wishes they could be you. Because most insults come from one emotion: powerlessness. The powerless mock what they cannot influence. The powerful remain silent because they don't need to prove their worth to anyone. So when you're insulted, remember, they're not talking to you. They're talking to their own inadequacy. You just happen to be standing close enough for it to echo. Machiavelli's advice would be this: don't descend into the mud to wrestle with pigs. Stay on the marble floor. Make them climb to reach you, and watch how quickly their laughter fades when they realize how far beneath you they stand. This is not arrogant. This is psychological warfare conducted with elegance. And if you want to win that war, your first rule must be this: never let an insult make you emotional. Let it make you strategic. But let's go even deeper into the machinery of it, the hidden architecture of human insult and response. Because what most people call an insult isn't about words at all. It's about control over the emotional frame. Whoever defines the emotional tone of the encounter wins it. This is why the greatest manipulators rarely shout. They insinuate. They drop a single word perfectly chosen and let silence do the rest. They understand that power isn't in volume, it's in precision. You can learn this too, but only if you stop reacting like prey. When someone mocks you, your ego wants to jump forward, to repair its image, to prove it's untouched. That's what the insult is designed to provoke, a reflex. But every reflex is predictable, and everything predictable can be controlled. The Machiavellian man rewires that reflex into awareness. He turns emotional pain into strategic clarity. In that instant after the insult, most people focus outward on the attacker. You must do the opposite. Focus inward. Observe your first emotion without acting on it. That split-second pause separates you from the masses. Because the one who can delay reaction controls not just the conversation, but time itself. The truth is, people insult to anchor your attention. The moment you fixate on them, they become your center of gravity. Machiavelli would tell you, never let another man occupy your mind rent-free. And so, the insult becomes the perfect opportunity to display your greatest weapon, composure under pressure. Because here's the paradox: when you appear unaffected, the insulter starts to feel the weight of their own attempt. They begin to doubt their impact, and doubt corrodes confidence faster than any counterattack ever could. It's the same principle Caesar used when he was ridiculed in the Roman Senate. Senators mocked his ambition, his supposed arrogance, his connection with the people. But Caesar never defended himself with words. He defended himself with victory. Each new conquest made their laughter sound hollow. He knew that arguments fade, but proof endures. That's how you tackle insults in the real world, not by debating them, but by outliving them. Think about it. When someone insults you, they're betting on your reaction to validate them. If you ignore it completely, you deny them the satisfaction of control. If you respond intelligently, you reclaim the frame. But if you overreact, you hand them your power on a silver platter. Machiavelli would say, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." In this context, fear doesn't mean terror, it means psychological respect. The quiet certainty that if they cross you, the price will be subtle but significant. You create that fear through restraint, not rage. A man who cannot be provoked commands more presence than one who constantly proves his pride. But what happens when the insult comes from someone in power, a boss, a superior, or a public figure with reach? Here's where strategy shifts from emotional to political. When the powerful insult you, it's never spontaneous. It's a signal they're testing boundaries, gauging whether you can be publicly diminished. The wrong move here is to respond with equal aggression, because in doing so, you validate their authority. The right move is the opposite: absorb the blow, say nothing, and let the power dynamics shift silently in your favor. Because in the eyes of the public, silence from a lower position looks like weakness only until you rise. Once you do, that same silence will be remembered as composure, wisdom, and restraint. Time rewrites perception if you have the patience to let it. Machiavelli himself learned this through humiliation. After being exiled and imprisoned by the Medici, he was insulted as a failed statesman, a broken man. But he didn't beg or lash out. He wrote The Prince instead, a book so sharp and politically insightful that it outlived every man who mocked him. His revenge was immortality. His response was brilliance. This is the Machiavellian way. Never fight the insult on the same level it was thrown. Rise so high above it that the insult looks like dust beneath your feet. But let's talk psychology. The average person's reaction to insult follows a predictable emotional curve: surprise, anger, justification, reflection. The manipulator's goal is to trap you in the middle two stages, anger and justification. Because once you start justifying yourself, you're admitting guilt subconsciously. The antidote: reverse the polarity. When insulted, agree in a way that reframes. Someone says, "You think you're better than everyone." You reply, "I think differently, yes, better." That depends on your measure. It's subtle but devastating. You don't deny, you don't defend, you reframe. And in that reframing, you steal control of the narrative. This is advanced persuasion. You redirect emotional energy without confrontation. It's what master negotiators do in boardrooms and diplomats do on global stages. Take Churchill during World War II. When critics called him reckless for refusing peace with Hitler, he didn't argue point by point. He reframed the conversation entirely. You were given the choice between war and dishonor. You chose dishonor, and you will have war. He turned moral accusation into historical prophecy. That's power. The Machiavellian mind never fights on the terrain of accusation. It shifts the ground beneath the accuser. And that's exactly how you should handle insult. Never fight on emotional ground. Shift the terrain to logic, irony, or silence, whichever weapon disorients your opponent most effectively. In modern terms, this is psychological aikido. You use their momentum against them. You let their own aggression expose their insecurity. You can even use humor, not defensive humor, but detached, cutting irony. When delivered with calm confidence, humor disarms because it reframes the entire emotional energy of the room. It makes the insulter look small, not because you attacked them, but because you showed the insult doesn't reach your level of seriousness. But here's the caveat: never use humor if your ego is still inflamed, because then it sounds like mockery, not mastery. Real Machiavellian control comes from emotional neutrality, a still core that can choose tone like a weapon from a rack. That's what most people get wrong about power. It's not about domination. It's about control of perception, emotion, timing. Let's connect this to negotiation. Because insult isn't just social, It's a tactic used in high-stakes situations to unsettle you. Skilled negotiators will subtly undermine your confidence with backhanded compliments or microaggressions designed to make you justify your worth. If you take the bait, you start defending your position, and once you're defending, you're no longer negotiating, you're pleading. So the Machiavellian move is preemptive detachment. You enter every negotiation knowing that insult is part of the theater. Expect it, study it, and let it bounce off your armor. Then when your counterpart sees their tactics fail, they become uncertain. And uncertainty in power games is your greatest leverage. That's when you strike, not with emotion, but with precision. You offer terms that sound generous but anchor to your advantage. You appear flexible, but every concession you make pushes them deeper into your frame. This is not manipulation in the childish sense. It's psychological chess, anticipating emotion and shaping it. Machiavelli once wrote that men are driven by two principal impulses, love and fear. In negotiation, those impulses appear as approval and loss. Insults exploit your need for approval. Your defense against them is the ability to tolerate disapproval, to act as if the insult doesn't touch your value. When you can do that, you reverse the polarity again. They start seeking your approval, wondering how you remained unmoved. That's when they start compromising without realizing it. But let's zoom out, because Machiavelli's lens was never confined to personal interaction. He thought in systems, in power structures, in psychology scaled to nation. Insults at a societal level are used the same way to weaken, to polarize, to divide. Propaganda, political rhetoric, cultural narratives, they all function as mass insults aimed at the collective ego of groups. And the same principle applies. The one who reacts emotionally loses. The one who studies, interprets, and responds strategically rules. When nations are insulted, the weak retaliate impulsively. The wise calculate. History's most cunning leaders have turned humiliation into transformation. Japan, humiliated after World War II, used that wound as fuel to rebuild an industrial empire. Rome, burned to the ground, emerged from ashes with imperial hunger. Even individuals, those who have been publicly humiliated or insulted, can turn that energy into renaissance. That's the hidden psychology of insult. It carries within it the seed of power if you know how to metabolize it. You take the venom and distill it into clarity. Because once you realize that every insult is just emotional information, a signal of someone's insecurity, fear, or envy, you stop feeling attacked and start feeling informed. This is what Machiavelli meant when he wrote that men judge more by the eye than by the hand. People don't see your inner truth, they only see what you let them perceive. The art of power is mastering that perception so completely that no insult can distort it. You become like marble, not cold, but immutable. Words strike, echo, and vanish. That's what it means to tackle insults Machiavelli's way. Not to react, not to argue, but to evolve through them, to use every attempt at humiliation as proof of your growing strength. But here's where most people stop. They think composure is the end of the lesson. It is. Composure is only the surface. The real transformation happens when you reach the point where insults no longer register as pain, but as proof that you're rising. Because here's the unspoken rule of human nature. People rarely attack what they truly despise. They attack what they secretly admire but cannot possess. Envy wears the mask of insult. Contempt is often disguised fascination. That's why Machiavelli believed that being hated, if for the right reasons, is a sign of progress. He wrote that a wise prince must desire to be feared in such a way that, if he is not loved, at least he is not hated without reason. The same applies to life. If you provoke envy, resentment, or scorn, it means you've moved beyond the comfort of mediocrity. Look around, the most powerful figures in history were insulted relentlessly. Socrates was called corrupt, Christ was called a blasphemer, Machiavelli himself was labeled a devil. Greatness doesn't attract applause first, it attracts accusation, because people attack what threatens their illusion of superiority. Once you understand that, insult transforms from poison into signal. You start to welcome it. It means you've become visible. It means you're standing in the light. The man who has never been insulted has never truly stood for anything. But now, let's go deeper, not just into power, but into the soul of it. Because Machiavellian wisdom isn't about cold detachment alone. It's about understanding the machinery of human nature so thoroughly that you can shape it without being shaped by it. To tackle insults like Machiavelli, you must first conquer the internal world, your own need for recognition, your hidden desire to be understood. These are the invisible levers manipulators pull. They don't insult to hurt your pride, they insult to expose your craving for acknowledgement. When that craving dies, you become untouchable. And this is the paradox. The more detached you become from validation, the more respect you start to command. Because people sense it, the calmness of a man who doesn't need approval feels like gravity. It pulls attention without asking for it. The modern world trains you to seek constant affirmation. Every notification, every comment, every reaction is a soft drug feeding your ego. That's why insults sting so much. They break the illusion of universal approval you've been conditioned to crave. But Machiavelli would remind you, power and comfort rarely coexist. If you want influence, you must endure discomfort. If you want mastery, you must embrace isolation. Because the truth is, to move above others, you must first accept being misunderstood by them. And insults are the tax you pay for independence. So when they mock you, smile. Not because you're above it, but because you finally understand what it means. The noise around you is not rejection, it's confirmation that you've stopped being one of them. Let's bring this to a finer point. There are 3 types of insult, and each requires a different weapon. The first is the impulsive insult, born of emotion, thrown without thought. This one is best met with silence. Its energy burns out quickly when ignored. The second is the strategic insult, calculated to undermine. This one you don't ignore, you deflect. Use their force against them, twist their framing until the audience sees the pettiness behind their words. The third is the public insult, delivered to humiliate, often in front of others. This one is dangerous because it threatens not just your ego, but your perceived authority. Here, Machiavelli's principle applies in full. Men should be either treated kindly or crushed. You must respond in a way that ends the game entirely, not through rage, but through decisive, precise dominance. A line that exposes their weakness, a gesture that reclaims the frame, one strike, clean and final, then walk away. This doesn't just silence them, it warns others. It establishes a boundary that doesn't need to be spoken again. Because in the hierarchy of human interaction, the one who sets the tone rules the dynamic. You must never allow someone to set the tone of mockery around you, not once. A single tolerated insult becomes permission for a lifetime of. But power, when applied correctly, is not loud. It's surgical. You don't destroy the person, you destroy the behavior. You make them feel the weight of their misstep without ever losing your composure. That's how true dominance feels. Effortless, almost gentle, but undeniable. And the same principle applies far beyond personal conflict. The Machiavellian understands that every insult, every attack, every betrayal is information. It tells you who fears you, who envies you, and who misunderstands you. It's the world showing you the map of its insecurities. Once you start seeing insults as intelligence, you start winning wars others don't even realize they're in. Because most people react, few observe, and almost no one calculates. Imagine this mindset in practice. You walk into a room and someone tries to undercut you subtly, a jab disguised as humor. Instead of feeling insulted, you see it as data. This person feels threatened, this person seeks attention, this person is insecure. You catalog it, smile slightly, and proceed. That person just exposed themselves completely while you revealed nothing. That's psychological invisibility, the ultimate Machiavellian state. But there's something even higher than invisibility. It's transcendent. Because power is not about staying above others forever. It's about reaching a state where their games no longer concern you. Machiavelli's brilliance wasn't just in manipulation. It was in understanding that all human politics, from empires to dinner tables, runs on the same fuel, insecurity. Once you see through that, you're free. Insults lose their sting because you no longer expect fairness from human nature. You see cruelty, envy, and mockery not as malice, but as instinct. You stop taking it personally because you realize it never was personal. This is the final evolution of power, serenity. The serenity of the man who no longer fights for validation, but moves through the world like a quiet storm, changing it without shouting, leading without demanding, commanding without effort. You can feel that energy when it walks into a room. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to. It simply is. That's the endgame of Machiavellian mastery. Not deceit, not control. But self-command so deep that no external force can shake it. Because what is the insult of another man compared to the discipline of your own will? Let them mock. Let them project. Let them twist your silence into arrogance. In time, their noise will fade, and your results will speak louder than their laughter ever could. Machiavelli lived through betrayal, imprisonment, exile, yet his words outlasted every insult thrown at him. That is the ultimate revenge, endurance. The weak want to be understood. The strong want to be remembered, and history only remembers those who refuse to be defined by the opinions of smaller men. So the next time someone insults you, pause. Don't flinch, don't react. Breathe. Look them in the eyes as if you can see straight through their soul, because you can. And what you'll see is fear, fear disguised as boldness, envy dressed as humor. They want to see you bleed. Don't give them that luxury. Give them silence. Give them mystery. Give them the growing discomfort of not knowing what you're thinking. That's the real punishment, making them realize they never had access to your mind at all. And if you ever choose to respond, make your response the kind that echoes, not through argument, but through consequence. Improve yourself until their words sound ridiculous next to your results. Build your empire quietly and let time humiliate your doubters for you. Because in the end, insult is temporary. Power is permanent. Remember this, an insult doesn't diminish you. Your reaction does. The moment you stop being baited, you stop being controlled. And that's when life shifts. The world that once mocked you begins to imitate you. The same voices that insulted will one day quote you. The same faces that sneered will one day nod in quiet respect. It's not luck, it's strategy. You mastered what they couldn't yourself. And that's Machiavelli's ultimate secret. The man who governs his emotions governs his destiny. The one who cannot be provoked cannot be defeated. And the one who learns to turn insult into insight becomes untouchable. So let them speak, let them sneer. Let them whisper your name in envy. Every insult is a mirror. Every reaction is a choice. And the day you stop reflecting back weakness, you become something greater, not just powerful, but immortal in presence. That's how you tackle insults, not by fighting, by mastering the battlefield they can't see, the one inside your own mind, the one Machiavelli ruled better than anyone who ever lived. The greatest victories are not won in battles others can see, but in the quiet wars inside your own head. Every insult, every whisper of doubt, every sideways glance, they are all invitations to step down from your throne and fight in the mud. Most people accept that invitation. You will not, because once you understand the mechanics of power, you realize the game isn't about proving yourself right. It's about staying above the noise long enough for truth to reveal itself on its own. Here's the strange beauty of it. The more you master this restraint, the more the world begins to orbit around you. The loud, reactive ones exhaust themselves trying to pull you into their storm, but you become the eye of it, still, unmoved, watching everything swirl while you decide deliberately when to speak and when to disappear. That stillness is not passivity, it's control. It's the kind of control that unnerves people, because most have never met anyone who isn't governed by emotion. They test you, insult you, challenge you, not always out of malice, but out of curiosity. They want to see what breaks you. The more you refuse to break, the more they start to sense that something in you cannot be touched. And that's when power shifts permanently. You start to see the hidden order behind every confrontation. Insults are not random. They appear precisely where your growth threatens someone's comfort. When you rise, you force people to confront their own stagnation. Some will admire you for it. Others will hate you. Both reactions are proof that you've stepped into significance. The only people who never face insult are the ones who never stand for anything at all. There is a moment, though, when the weight of constant opposition can feel suffocating. The temptation to shout back, to defend your name, to make them see what you see, it creeps in like a fever. That's when you remind yourself of the principle Machiavelli lived by. Perception is reality. The truth doesn't matter if the crowd never sees it. What matters is who commands the frame through time. History vindicates the patient, not the loud. So you stay calm, you build, you act. You let your results accumulate quietly like stones in a fortress wall. You give no speech, no rebuttal, only outcomes. And in time, the noise fades because outcomes make better arguments than words ever could. But understand this, there's a point beyond strategy where the insult becomes irrelevant altogether. Not because you're numb, but because you've outgrown the level of consciousness where insult exists. The sting disappears once you realize no one can define you unless you give them permission. At that stage, your life becomes a mirror. Everything directed at you only reveals the speaker. Praise shows their hope. Insult shows their pain. Neither touches. You start to see people not as enemies or allies, but as signals, each one teaching you something about human nature, something you can use. That's the quiet genius of Machiavelli. He never moralized about behavior, he studied it. He understood that manipulation, envy, betrayal, these aren't exceptions to human nature. They are its foundation. And by accepting that, he achieved freedom from disappointment. He stopped expecting virtue from those who lived by appetite. That's why he could stay calm in chaos, because he saw chaos as the natural state of man. Once you see the world that way, insults lose all meaning. They are simply the friction between human egos colliding. You don't need to eliminate friction, you learn to move through it. And as you rise, you'll notice something else. The same mouths that insulted you will start to borrow your language. The same people who dismissed you will imitate your tone, your ideas, your presence. That's how influence truly manifests, not when they praise you, but when they unconsciously begin to copy you. The insult was only the first stage of conversion, but never gloat, never look back. Keep your eyes forward, because the moment you turn to seek validation, you descend again into the arena of reaction. Power demands solitude. Influence requires distance. You can't command the stage if you're still trying to be liked by the audience. There's a rhythm to all of this: insult, restraint, elevation, silence. Over and over. Each time the cycle repeats, your emotional armor grows thicker, but your insight grows sharper. You stop being the one who flinches and you start becoming the one who observes. You begin to predict human behavior the way a chess master predicts the next 5 moves. That's the Machiavellian gift, foresight born from detachment. And when the next insult comes, because it always will, you don't feel anger anymore. You feel gratitude. You think, good, they still see me, I'm still ahead of them. The man who can turn attack into fuel has already won. Think of every insult as pressure training. Every test of your composure is sharpening the blade of your character. You don't need to chase revenge. Time is already carving it for you. Every year you stay disciplined while others drown in emotion widens the gap until comparison becomes impossible. That's when the shift happens. You no longer have rivals. You have spectators. And at that stage, your presence begins to take on something almost mythic. People can't quite explain it. They feel it, the calm authority, the deliberate movements, the quiet confidence of someone who knows exactly who they are. You've seen it before in the eyes of certain leaders, certain artists, certain visionary. The look of someone who's been through ridicule, rejection, misunderstanding, and emerged refined instead of broken. That's what you're building. Not armor that blocks life, but armor that lets it pass through you without leaving scars. Eventually, you won't need to plan your responses at all. Your nature itself becomes the response. You radiate steadiness. Your very calmness is a mirror that shows others their chaos. That's when insults stop coming, not because people have changed, but because they finally recognize futility. They see that nothing they say can move you, and in that recognition, they start treating you differently. Respect, after all, is born not from charm, but from boundary. When you stop being reactive, you stop being accessible to manipulation. That's when your words, your decisions, your silence, everything begins to carry weight. People start to measure themselves by how you respond to them. They begin to crave your acknowledgement because it has become rare. That's power distilled to its purest form. Selective attention. But never mistake that for cruelty. Indifference is not cruelty, it's wisdom. The man who cares too widely dilutes himself. The one who chooses where to invest emotion becomes unstoppable. So you keep that emotional economy tight. You spend energy only where return is guaranteed. You stop seeking justice in words and start creating justice in results. You don't explain your vision, you demonstrate it. And when you walk away from an insult, you don't walk away in defeat. You walk away like a king leaving a courtroom after delivering a verdict, calm, certain, unbothered. The world will keep testing, it's what the world does, but each test is proof that you've risen high enough to be noticed. So the next time someone throws shade, remember, you're being used as a mirror for their insecurity. That's not an insult, that's an honor, because it means you matter. The only real failure is letting their noise rewrite your inner script. Your story is yours to tell, in actions, not in argument. And one day, when the years have passed and the dust has settled, the people who once mocked you will use your name as a measure of discipline, presence, and control. That's the silent victory Machiavelli understood. That's the reward for every insult you refuse to dignify with a response. So hold your ground, speak less, observe more, turn every sting into strategy, every wound into wisdom. Because eventually, the insults stop hurting, not because the world became kinder, but because you became greater. And when that day comes, you'll understand what Machiavelli truly meant when he wrote that fortune favors the bold, not the loud, not the angry, but the one bold enough to master himself while the rest of the world is busy reacting. You'll smile then, not out of arrogance, but out of understanding. The insults, the mockery, the doubt, they were never obstacle. They were initiation rites. They carved out the discipline required to carry the power you were destined for. That's the truth they never tell you. Insult is the universe checking whether you're ready to rule yourself. So let them test you. Let them speak. Let them underestimate. You'll answer, not with words, but with the quiet thunder of progress. Because in the end, every insult is a prophecy waiting to be reversed. And when you've learned to turn that prophecy to your advantage, when you can look at an insult and see opportunity, not offense, that's when you've reached the highest form of control. You no longer chase power, you become it. That right there is how you tackle insults, not the way the world expects, not with retaliation, but with transformation. The insult burns away everything false until only truth remains. And the truth is this: no one can humiliate a man who has mastered his own mind. No one can diminish a spirit that refuses to bow. That's the Machiavellian way, the way of composure, calculation, and unshakable strength. The way of turning every word meant to wound you into another stone in the empire you're building. So let the world talk. You'll be too busy becoming exactly what they said you couldn't be.